Welcome to a new Foil Drive podcast episode. I'm your new host today, Josh Koo. I'm the new team rider manager of the Foil Drive crew, and I would like to introduce a good friend of mine, Eric Antonson.
What's up, guys?
He's dialing in from Florida, and he's probably our newest rider to the team. And I just thought while I was with him in Florida for the FSLR race, we kind of got a few sessions in together, and it'd be really cool to kind of debrief on the competition and also debrief on just kind of his first feels of the first, 2 months now riding the thing?
Like 5-6 weeks, yeah.
Epic. All right.
Yeah. Am I officially on the team, Josh? I didn't know I was on the team.
Dude, you signed an agreement.
That's a lot of responsibility, dude.
Did you not read the contract?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, well, we're stoked to have you on the team, and let's rip into kind of just what happened in Florida and your experience so far.
Yeah, let's do it. Where do you want to start?
You tell me.
Well, this is your interview, bro.
Yeah, so this is
You're already trying to flip it on me.
Yeah, so tell us, tell us your experience so far with the Foil Drive. Like, everyone knows you from your podcast, so we don't really need to go into kind of your background, I don't think. But it'd be kind of cool to hear about your experience so far with the Foil Drive. So what?
Yeah, so you reached out after you left uni, and I thought it was kind of just like an olive branch, like because we've been good friends. You left uni, and I was kind of hurt after that, and so I thought you were just reaching out kind of as an olive branch. But I was like, all right, I'll give it a try. And what was really interesting, and it's funny because I'm having this exact same conversation that you and I had with so many. My anticipation was that I was going to want to ride the Slim. I was only going to use it, as an assist to chip on days when I couldn't. And you're like, no, you're going to want the max. Make sure that you get the max. Cooper told me the same thing, and I still wasn't buying it. And then, a month in, and it's all I use, and I'm super stoked on it. So I thought that was really funny. And what's funny is that I've got 4 friends right now who are getting them, and they're like, dude, I think I just need the Slim. And I'm like, nope, you don't. Go with the max. If you're just going to have one.
It's
I'm stoked on it.
It's the sales of the Slim versus the Max. The Max is way outweighing the Slim.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you're going to go for a product where you maybe only can afford one, people are just going for more. Because I think the performance difference really isn't quite hindering what a lot of people are getting out of it.
Mm-mm. Yeah, that's what I feel. And just the ability to extend your session so long. And our water, we've had a terrible winter here. Water's been really cold. The waves have not been good. And it's really nice to be able to go out in a, at least 1 mil lighter wetsuit, no boots on our warmer days, and just be up on foil the whole time. And to get, an hour of foiling in, I'm getting a little over an hour out of the max battery now. And that's pretty mental.
What foil are you always gravitating towards? Because that's kind of one thing that I found with my learning process was I started as if I was starting with the SUP or something or winging. I started with the biggest foil, and then I realized after time that you don't need to do that. You just need to be on a foil that you're comfortable on your feet, because getting up is not the issue. It's just kind of getting used to that new swing weight and weight on the board.
Yeah. I ride the 125, the 140, and the 170, and I've been on some protos too. But they all, it's really interesting because, we're in the process of designing some new foils, optimizing for more speed, more efficiency. And it seems like the current series is just so perfectly optimized when you have power that it's kind of changed some of the conversations about what we're talking about designing. We're still going to, those things are already almost done. So going to finish those. But at the same time, the stall speed of the 125 no longer matters, because you can always just hit the gas if you need to. And you can keep that thing moving in surf to where after Paul's trip, I've been spending a lot of time on the 120. The real change for me has been in boards. I'm down to riding, 26 to 30 liter boards. I sent a downwinder today, and that's what I was on. I was on the Transmedium 17, which is 17 inches wide. on a downwinder, like way offshore. It's awesome.
What length is that with the 27 liter board? Are you kind of going just back to your normal 4.5s, or are you kind of making a longer board but less literage because it doesn't need to float as much?
So the 26 liter board that I ride is a 4.3. It's a new shape that you saw at the contest called the Jellyfish. A little wider tail, designed to be ridden a little bit farther back. But what I've learned is actually that this existing shape, it's probably been my favorite prone board for the last few years. The Trans Medium 17 is beautiful for it. It just seems like that narrowing it up lets it cut through the water a little quicker. So I can flat water the 125 no problem, and I can't do that on the wider 4.3.
Oh wow,
which I didn't anticipate.
Yeah. That's kind of like the opposite to kind of what I found with my experience. I started with my normal prone board, which is 4.5 by I think 18 and like 25 liters, because that was the only board I had at the time, and it was totally fine for everything. But I wanted to get one of those mid-length boards from pretty much just hearing, you chat about it. And like, I just kind of, from my experience with SUP, when you first get into it, you're thrown off by that extra board and an extra width with the swing weight. But over time, with these high aspect wings, you use it to your advantage, I reckon, the real estate on your board, like how wide it is. So I kind of thought with the mid-length designed specifically for foil drive, like we're talking more like a 5.4 board by maybe 40 liters or 38 liters, and a bit more wide, like a 19. I'm actually really enjoying that extra real estate to kind of swing around that extra weight from the foil drive unit now. I feel like when I've gone back to my little prone board that's, smaller than that, 25 liters, I just feel like you feel the nuances a lot more. It doesn't get dampened down by that extra board. That's just kind of what I've been feeling. So I was just like curious how you've fell into like kind of the opposite trend of that, nearly, where like you're enjoying going small, like small is better.
So I don't know if that's where I'll land. I like to test a lot of stuff, and that's currently what I'm freaking on right now. Like I'm really enjoying that. What I would say, taking it back a step, is that the nuance of the pop-up on these small boards, I'm about $180 now, it's difficult. And so I don't think that many folks are going to be wanting to foil drive max a 26 liter board. Like I think I took it on as a challenge when Paul was here, and I got to learn from Paul, and, pretty adept at popping up on small boards and stuff. And so I'm really enjoying that right now. I think it's awesome. It's also pairs insanely well with the 5.2 and 5.6 Quiver Killer Enigmas, the mid-lengths that I've been riding. And I really like that as well. I don't know if I'm feeling the same need for real estate. What was interesting is that as I've dropped down, it seems as though, like the 17 wide board, like when I ride the 17 wide board prone without the foil drive, I use, as much offset as I can on that board. It's pretty narrow, but I never feel like I need to go more. And then if I go up to a wider board, I end up feeling like I need more. There's something about a narrow board. And Kalama's always said this about like the Barracudas. He's got some of those really narrow Barracudas, and he's like, doesn't feel the need to go offset when he's on the small board. They seem to roll really, really easily. And so I wonder if it's something similar that I'm feeling on that smaller board, to where it always feels pretty balanced. It also, like on the mid lengths, I feel like I need to move my feet a lot more when I power up. And I don't feel, I move them a little bit on the smaller boards, but not nearly as much as on the big boards. And I'm still balanced when I'm powered and moving back and forth in between the two.
Yeah, I reckon the magic about that new board that you're loving is the width towards the tail. That's what I really liked about it when I tested it out, because it kind of gives you the real estate to move that back foot from toe to heel edge. And I reckon that's what really makes you be able to get leverage across the mast and the foil.
That's not the board I've been riding, though. Right. After that trip, I went down to my narrower board, which is, I ride the foil really far forward in the box on the other board. So you don't have as much room for offset, but you still have a decent amount, as much as you can for 17 wide, I would say. But yeah, that other board, there was an angle that's weird. And I figured out what it was after that contest. After I laid an egg in that contest on that board. It's terrible.
Tell us a little bit about that contest. I haven't really heard much in the back end of finishing that. Was it, I heard from past experience, I heard from people that have been to that competition before that each year it's just getting bigger and bigger, and like, who knows what's going to happen next year. So was that kind of what you experienced? Because I think you've been to a couple, haven't you?
Yeah, that's my third year in a row. I think it's doubled in size every year. I think what's awesome about the contest is more about the gathering, kind of like the Hood River effect. Just it's fun to have everybody together hanging out. And yeah, it's just cool. This year we didn't have the same surf. Last year the surf was really good for it. This year it was a little bit wonky and a little bit small. So like the first day was a lot of wind, and for the race a little bit weird. And then the day with the actual surf contest was pretty meager after the first few heats. It got small really quickly.
Yeah.
You still rip though, bro.
Because kind of channeling your surf style, because it was intimidating, dude. Because like everyone in the strapless comp was just doing airs, so I just felt like an idiot out there just doing surf turns. I was just like, oh, is this a surf comp or still like an air comp? But like it's impressive to be around that caliber of like, especially all those young kids. Like they're literally taking it to another level. It's so cool to just be around that, because I think even in my heat, I tried to do a strapless air, something that I never do because I saw it. I just got excited, bro. So I just like, being around that, it just pushes you. And then like now coming back home to Sydney, like you just, you channel that a bit and you want to just kind of push the limits a bit more, because maybe just like what you're normally used to is like you're not pushing yourself. So yeah, those kids and everyone, and like and you guys, like it's just so good to be around. Like what you said, those moments, even if it's not in the comp, but like the days before the comp where everyone's out foiling, like that was rad. That was so rad.
Yep. That's kind of my favorite part about it. Saturday was amazing with how many people were on the beach on Saturday. I didn't even really get to foil too much. I was just hanging out in the tent and just talking to folks all day. It was rad. It's very similar to, like the Hood River thing.
I thought the race scenario was a really good idea. I kind of want to bring that back to Sydney, because with downwinding, like it's exciting, but it's not a sport that the public can watch, because it's you take off and you're gone. But this is like a race that is only a few meters off the shore, and it's just like head to head with 20 other competitors, and people are like running into each other, and it's high adrenaline, high octane, and there could have been like a few things going on that were a bit dicey, but it was just exciting because everyone on the beach could just visually see it. And I think Billy from Good Breeze did a really good job at creating an event that I think still, with the foils getting better and better, like, because I think probably in the past maybe a lot more people ran back after their first pump down the beach. Now everyone's just pumping back, like it's just no question. But I really like it, and I hope they continue that kind of style, because I enjoyed that more than the surf comp. I thought that was like...
Did you?
Yeah, I did, because I just thought it was... Anything could happen in that race. Like, it doesn't matter if you're a Jack Ho or one of the pro guys. Like, if you didn't get a chip in, like, another guy could easily just overtake you. So I just thought it was like, it really leveled the playing field, and people were hungry and getting scrappy because they were like shoulder to shoulder.
It's a bunch of carnage. I mean, it's fun to watch. I don't do the race, but
why not? I was disappointed not seeing you in the race. Hey,
I've never done it. I like surfing, man.
Yeah,
that's what I like doing, which is why I like foil drive.
Yeah, so it was cool having the foil drive at the event. Like, I think when you said that the conditions were pretty average, it actually was really good for the foil drive, because it was really hard to get a chip in, because it was just a shore break really, and on really shallow sand. So it was nice to just be able to pop up on the foil drive and buzz around on the swells before they even broke, and then and then cut off and just do that again. It honestly felt like we were on a bit of like a snowboard park where we're just getting the little lift up and just kept lapping each other when we were kind of doing laps around each other. I think we had a moment where we were looking at each other going, is this the future of foiling?
That's a good conversation. Like I've been talking to a bunch of, like Mike has been, Mike Pedigo, we talk every day, and he's right now got a buddy's foil drive that his friend's out skiing and it just came in. And so he set it up and he's going to let his buddy borrow a board to learn on, but he's got, the right to use it for this week. And he has been such a hater. And maybe it's just because I was stoked on it and he didn't want to like it, or he's also a purist. He spent so much time building an amazing skill set that, there's a sunk cost fallacy. And, it's this idea that, once you've invested a lot of time in something, there's value, even though maybe, the situation has changed and the value isn't really there in the same way, but it feels like there's value to you. And I kind of feel like that's happening right now, like with him, but it's been interesting after probably 4 sessions, how he's started to come around. We just talked, I did a downwinder today with my son and a buddy. And it was one of those days where it was kind of on this morning, but it was 49 degrees. And so we were waiting for it to warm up. And then the wind just kept dying throughout the day. And so there was no downwinder anymore, but there was still some angle on the swell. And it was kind of like a hybrid shore runner that would have just been pretty much a grind. And we still did 5 miles and had a blast over the session. And it's really nice too, like going with my son, going with Damo, this is his 3rd session on the foil drive and he's already like got it. It's ridiculous. But he's still coming off foil a little bit because he's not used to the altitude he needs to maintain. So come across a bump and kind of catch the motor and slow down and come off foil. And if we're on a downwinder and he comes off, I'm kind of bummed because it's so much work to get up. And, sometimes the bumps are hard. But it was such a nice feeling, like he'd come off, I'd see him come off and I could motor back and just sit there. We'd hang out for a minute and then grab a chip and just keep running. And, it's pretty epic. Like that's a really cool thing, but it's been fun to watch Mike's like mindset change a little bit and kind of come around full circle to what it has to offer. I don't think he'll probably be doing it all the time, but he's definitely stoked on it.
I think it's just like what I found. I'm so happy that I've fallen upon foil drive because here in Sydney, our conditions just don't really allow us to get in the water every day unless you downwind. Right. Winging is pretty bad here in Sydney, and then we're banned from prone surfing. So with the foil drive, I'll just like whatever wind direction, I'll just putt miles out to sea, do whatever type of downwind I can do. Or there's even a few little point breaks that the lifeguards don't patrol, so they won't kick us out. And I'll just like ride these little kind of swells along the point that don't even break. So I'm kind of like, I'm just happy because at the end of the day, I can still get in the water once a day, which I need. Whereas before with like just, without the foil drive, I was still getting in the water most days, but there might be a day here or there that you might have to miss because the conditions just don't suit. Or like, right. Like your lift with your downwind shuttle might have fallen through. And then you're like, well, if I can't go with them, I'm just going to motor upwind now for 3 miles and then come back. So I don't need to rely on someone else. So
it's easy.
It is good. And like, I think it's really cool too. Like I've done a lesson now as well with another guy with the foil drive, and exactly what you said with Damo. Like it's no question about, am I going to get up? Am I not going to get up? Like you can go out with someone and stay side by side with them. Something that like, I think people need at the start, because there's just so much anxiety running through someone's head when they're learning to downwind. They're like, A, have I got the right equipment? B, can I even get this thing up? And then C, am I going to make it to like the finish line? And then just having your friend next to you who maybe is more experienced than they are, and just being like, come on, like, you can literally probably paddle up on the same bump next to each other. Like you can be like, go this one. So do you find like with the foil drive, in theory, like what you need to catch bump wise is you can actually do that on the foil drive? Because like, you're like, okay, there's a swell rolling, your nose is going up on the board, and then now power, and then literally you get direct power and you're up. Versus like when you're learning to sup, you're like, okay, I know which bump to get, but I'm not strong enough to paddle for it. So the one that I should have gone for, I'm not getting that. I'm getting the one like behind it. So
yeah. No, I find it's the exact same thing. Also, I did it on a day that was huge a couple weeks ago, and not a good run. It was terrible, but it was interesting in that I had to chip kind of on the smaller bumps because it was before I had really paid attention to learning how to, before the Paul Cooper camp, like where I got good at like popping up like right away on a wave, because I was doing pretty much all flat water starts at the beginning. I was like on the Quiver Killer 5.6, it's so easy, just flat watering it, and then all of a sudden I'm out there and it's like 7 feet at 7 seconds or something like that, winds honking, and it's like 3 different swells in the water, and like just being able to know, all right, well, wait for the little bump in between the big bumps and take off and hit that seam. Yeah, it makes a huge difference. And now on the little board, I'm doing almost like a longboard, like kind of like, sink it, get your momentum, and then just pop right all at the same time. Like and that seems to work really well. And I can pop up on almost anything. Like it doesn't have to, like little 4-inch tiny bumps. It feels like you just need just a touch momentum and you're off.
Let's just break it down to what is like the setup that you've got. Like, so I think you've gravitated towards the Max, right?
Yep.
And what battery do you pair with that?
I guess it's called the Performance, the big one.
The big one, okay. And then you've also, what have you fallen on with the cable size? Like, that's a huge question that we get a lot of customers kind of trying to figure out what to use.
So it's the shorter of the two that I got,
so the
whatever that is.
15 centimeter one, maybe?
Probably the 15. And then I actually put the motor as low as I possibly could, as close to the battery as possible, to the unit.
Do you kind of bunch the wire up a bit and then tape it to get even less?
Yeah, it's got to like almost come flat against the side of my mast for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm sure is adding some drag, but I like having the motor. I like having as much workable mast as I can for surfing.
Also, that's your surfing setup. You do a different
and my downwind setup. I don't change
everything.
Yep.
And are you doing any upwind stuff, or is it mainly just like normal downwinds?
No, I've done some upwind. We finished a 5-6 mile downwinder the other night. It was just going off and wasn't ready to get out, and I still had a full battery when we got there because it was literally like 2 chips the whole way. And so I did, I don't know, another 3 miles of lapping just at the end. And I've gotten pretty decent at going upwind. I know that the motor's pretty tall, but it's, especially on the small board, I find it easier because you can kind of fit in the bumps. You're not touching as much.
Yeah.
Where on the bigger board, I tend to like have to give it a little bit more space just because of the nose angle.
That's so interesting. I'm like finding the complete differences with this.
Really?
Like, I honestly find the bigger boards so much easier to go upwind. Like I can literally, I can literally fully submerge. Like say if I'm going through like really choppy stuff, if my nose kind of dives through a wave and gets fully submerged, like my feet and everything and board are underwater, I can keep the motor on and it keeps going through it, and I can come out the other side and be sweet. But with my little board, if I did that for some reason, it would just stall out. It was like the big board has like more momentum to push through energy like that, and it just feels more stable. Like I feel like I don't get wobbled off my feet as much.
Weird.
That is something that's definitely I've noticed with my mid-length board that's why I haven't gone back to my little prone, because like I honestly haven't found a negative to the mid-length yet. But there's
not a lot of them.
Yeah. I haven't proned it without the foil drive, which I really want to do just to see how it feels without like extra weight on it. But I just haven't proned it yet. I haven't found a session.
They're mental prone. I love them. I actually almost prefer the little boards more on foil drive in some ways now, and proning the mid-length, just because it's so easy to get around the lineup and to catch waves. But all that's kind of off the table once you're powered. Now, I reserve the right to change my opinion on all this in the next 2 weeks, because 2 weeks ago I didn't believe any of the stuff that I'm saying right now. So it's just it's still so new to me that everything's evolving.
So Damo is on your son is on the Slim, and he's at his 3rd session. Is he found any negatives to this like Slim? Obviously, besides the extra runtime of the battery, but like, Has he even tried the max yet?
No, I won't let him.
You're such a hog, bro.
No, it's just I actually wanted him to learn on the mid-length first. He really wants to go down to a smaller boards, but I just feel like it's a little bit safer. I feel like foil drive risk is heavily front weighted, knock on wood. Mm-hmm. I feel like your first sessions, you just don't understand the potential. It's like in anything, you just don't understand the potential dangers in something right when you get on it. And so I think that having a bigger board, more area around the prop, easier get ups is a good thing. And I think after today, I mean, he's been pretty much crushed every session. His learning curve, it makes me mad sometimes. But
what was his learning curve? Let's go into that. Like that, how did you teach someone? Now that you're experienced, how did you teach someone?
So he doesn't like a lot of coaching. He just wants, the basics, and he's going to go out there and figure it out. And he's pretty good at that. So we just did a lot of safety. Like here are, don't turn it on until you get into the water. Make sure that it's flipped over, turn it on, be on top of your board, be careful of the prop all the time. If you go down, make sure your hand's not on the trigger, things like that. And then he went out there, and actually I should say that he's 4 sessions and he took out, I told him to put it on the bigger board, and he wouldn't do it the first time. So he put it on the 24-liter tow board that we have and tried to flat water. And he actually got up on it. Like it took him the whole slim battery, but at the end he was riding around on it. And I think it was just like he just wanted to, because I said he had to start on the big board. I think he wanted to start on the small board and show me he didn't need to. But he crushed it. And then the next session, he put it on, or it was actually already set up on the 5.2. And so I was just like, just take this out. And he just went out, and he can flat water. He's about 150 pounds, can flat water the 125 or the 170 on the quiver killer really easily. And then it was just about, understanding the pop-up, how the lift changes. I think a good foiler, like everything's pretty intuitive, except for when you come off the throttle or you elevate enough to where the motor is no longer in the water, and then you have all that forward pitching. I think that's the only thing that you really have to get a grip on at the beginning, and then everything else is fairly intuitive.
What is that?
And then his first,
because like I noticed that moment that you were just describing right there, where you're transitioning from motor to on foil, is the one thing that once someone gets comfortable on their feet is where they always fall. So like what do you find is like the best way to learn yourself or teach someone who you're kind of coaching on the foil drive to overcome that?
I mean, it was just about understanding the weighting and anticipating. You can hear, I think one of the neat things about it is that it gives you a lot of audible clues, like cues, like about what's going to happen. So you can hear before the motor's going to come out, I find. And so, shifting your hips back or moving your back foot back in that moment, I think, is the best thing. But I think you just have to feel that one. And, I think that you should prepare someone for it. And then if they know how to foil, they'll understand, the loss of lift, that forward pitching, and how to compensate. It's just a bigger compensation than the most pitchy foil you've ever felt.
Yeah. I don't know. How do you I'm a big advocate for moving your feet. I think that's just the style of surfing and foiling that I do. I'm always moving my feet around. But I've definitely noticed, because what you're realistically doing when you're lying down on your board and you're climbing up to your feet is that you're keeping so much force down on the nose just to keep it down.
Yeah.
So then you plant that front foot down on the middle of your board, and you're pretty much just doing a forward lunge on it. Like you're just leaning so far forward. Yep. And then you pull that trigger, and then your board comes off the motor and onto foil. And in that moment, you got to stop leaning so far forward and jump back. But this all happens in like milliseconds. So if you're not ready for that kind of moment, everyone nosedives. So I've seen, I think Lucas Schuler from Foil Only Instagram, he did a tip the other day where he likes to keep his feet in the same spot, but he says he just, when that moment comes, he does like what you said and just moves his hip back and just shifts his weight back. But for me, it's definitely I'll preempt this transition, and then I will definitely shuffle both feet back. It's like a hop, like it's nearly a jump, and the board goes forward and I go up in the sky, and then my feet land back down, but it's an inch back from where I was. It sounds technical, but it's something that kind of You just got to do it. Once you do it, it turns into muscle memory. It's not like something that you even think about, I don't think.
I do something very similar. Actually, now when I'm surfing and I'm approaching a wave, I start moving my feet into position like I was going from pumping to surfing. I do that when I pump and surf. I move back into a surfing position from pumping. And as I'm approaching a wave now, I can't stay there long powered, but I can a little bit. So I'm trying to get like more into a surfing position before I get in, instead of having to waste the beginning of a wave, like moving your feet around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talking about safety, have you had any close calls or anything yet?
No, the only session that I didn't feel good and I cut it short was, it's my second session on a smaller prone board. This was a few weeks ago, and it was a big nor'easter. It would have been marginal downwind day. Like you could have done a run, but it wasn't good. Lots of different swell in the water. And I hadn't spent any time yet. It was before I'd ever caught a wave prone, basically, like on a short board, a prone board. And I thought I was going to be able to flat water it. And I didn't realize how much energy chop takes away from your forward momentum. Like it's very difficult for someone who hasn't done this. On flat water, you can build a lot of speed on a small board. And when there's chop in the water, every little chop is slowing you down. And so you actually have to kind of use the waves and chip like you would like on a downwinder to pop up, unless you've got a lot of liters under your feet. Like on the 5.6, 55 liter, I can do that. But anything smaller than that, I'm still, even on the 45 liter, I still have to catch energy to get going. And I hadn't done that before. And so I was also wearing a PFD for the first time. And I didn't realize that wasn't letting me get my front foot, and I had to basically land on the nose to hold it down. So I had a couple weird falls on that day. And after about, 15, 20 minutes, I was like, this is stupid. I'm just going to get hurt. And just called it and walked back to the house. I didn't even make it far enough to catch a ride. So that's a testament to how bad it was.
How did you overcome that? What did you learn from that?
I just needed to spend time learning to pop up, and get a setup dialed. I have a bad problem of like testing a bunch of different setups and liking to like learn through that. But sometimes you just have to commit to something and learn skills before you start playing with too much stuff. Like the setup that I'm on now, I'm going to stay on it for a few weeks. Like it's good. I'll change the foil, but the board and motor position, all that is going to be exactly where it's at.
Yeah. I think the one thing, and this is like not to do with foil drive, just foiling in general, is learning how to foil, isn't it? It's like learning to not trying to overcome like a bad situation. It's just letting it go. Like just let the board go forward and you jump back. I think like when people try and overcommit, that's when that taco thing happens. And I've found lately, like I'm trying to learn to foil drive switch now. And
nice.
I've just like I'm not good at switch. Like I can't switch going winging. That's why I'm trying to learn on the foil drive first to then bring it across to winging, just because I can go up and down so much like with my falls. But some of the falls I've had with the foil drive has been gnarly. Like I can see how something can go wrong real easy. It's just you're just like I just don't know how to full switch. I need to learn how to like I'm so used to doing it normal that like now like I'm doing tacos. Like I like touch wood. I like never taco when I foil normally. Like I always know how to fall. Like I always fall backwards. Like it's got to be something that real sketchy for me to do a proper taco. But with the going switch thing, like it happens so easy, and I can just see how that is for a beginner. How it just can just happen so naturally.
Yeah, I don't think that foil drive is necessarily like the best way to learn to foil, because I think there is some added risk to that just because you have a prop. I think that, you need to learn how to fly maybe first. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think what's so good about it is just gives you multiple chances of getting on foil, where like you think about if you, I learned to foil kind of behind a ski. So that was kind of just like unlimited amounts of time to get up, because I already knew how to pull on a tow rope. But so that kind of fast tracked me. But I've seen people who are trying to learn to foil just proning, and like, you know, they'll try catch a wave as if it's a normal surfboard, and they'll just be getting launched, and like, you know, a 2-hour session, they won't even make a wave. They'll just get lit up like 20 times.
Yep.
So like, you're not learning much in that. You're learning that you're catching waves that are probably too big. And then like same thing, like SUP is even another level. Like people can't even stand on the board in flat water. Like you're not foiling, you're just standing there, and like, if you're lucky, maybe paddling in circles. So I think the foil drive is good because it can get you flying like instantly, but I can see how it maybe doesn't teach you the right technique, because leaning that far forward and keeping your foot down on the board to keep the nose down and then holding the trigger, that's not foiling, that's e-foiling, you know?
Right.
You know, like that's a skill in itself. If you want to learn how to e-foil, that's it. Like you see everyone on those flight boards or lift boards, like they're literally doing a forward lunge. Like that's not foiling. Like that, well, to me, that doesn't look like foiling. That's just like motoring around. But
I'd say it's a brilliant tool. I think that hopefully there'll be a shroud that you could, I mean, I wouldn't use one, but like, I think that if there's some prop protection,
it's coming.
My guess is that
coming.
I've heard that. Yeah. So once you have that, I think it changes everything. What I'm saying right now is that I think that asking someone to be able to fall when you know they're going to take tacos and remember to take your finger off the trigger is a big ask. And I think that you don't want to see those injuries, because I think that, you know, that could be gnarly. And so like my daughter wants to learn to foil, and she surfs a little bit. She's an epic water woman, but hasn't really ever foiled before. And she was asking about the foil drive, and I was like, I'll take you behind the ski. Once you're flying, then hop on the foil drive. But you know, if there's a prop guard, absolutely, she could be sending it, I think, right away.
Now that's I'm actually really excited about that. So yeah, that prop guard's coming, and I think exactly for what you were just describing, like for friends who are interested in foiling and, you know, haven't foiled before, definitely whack on the prop guard, like for sure. Like it's just, you know, it's just going to save everyone. You're not going to be as nervous about everything. But then once they're doing the flight, like they're transitioning from motor on to foiling, and you can see that they're looking in control. They're not like, you know, waving their arms around and winding the windows up. Like they're in control. Take the prop guard off, because that prop guard is literally, it's not for performance. Like it's not. It's literally just for safety. Like you wouldn't be riding that prop guard trying to rip turns. And I'm sure there probably will be people that do it. Like I'm sure you'll see Paul Cooper doing a freaking huge air and with the prop guard on it just to show that it can be done. But like I personally haven't tried it yet, but like I've seen it, and yeah, it's not a performance tool, but it's a great thing for people that are not into foil drive for performance. They're into it because they want to learn to foil, and it's just like an attachment that you can put on, use it until you're comfortable, and then once you're comfortable, take it off. Like it's just as easy as putting the motor pod on. So like I think it's such a cool additive that it's just gonna, like, you know, protect our community, and like, because there's definitely some injuries, and like I think a lot of them are self-inflicted just because, you know, there's a lot going on. But that's just, I think the safety is just, we got to kind of take responsibility for what we're doing, and responsibility for others that don't know. So exactly like kind of what you said about your daughter, you're not just going to put her on a foil drive with a 3-blade prop and be like, go for it, honey. Like, you know, it's just, she's never foiled before in her life. Like it would be irresponsible to do that. So I think it's just kind of just having a bit of responsibility and thinking about it. But I think another thing that I think we should dive into before we run out of time is what do you think about foil drive culture and kind of the community that's getting into it, and how they're perceived maybe by the public, and how we should kind of monitor ourselves and not be classed as, I don't want to be classed as PWC. Like I don't want to be classed as jet skis, you know, because like I know on a busy day back home when it's sunny, you get like all these jet ski hoons hanging around and just not making the environment safe or enjoyable just for other users of the beach. I think it's a pretty selfish thing. So I'm just curious to think what you think about the foil drive culture and how we should behave?
I think that's going to be a very big conversation, because I think that, you know, at the beginning, and this is only 6 weeks ago or whatever it is, I didn't see the allure and how quickly that it was going to grow. I hadn't spent much time thinking about it outside of watching Paul's clips and then talking to you a couple times. That was it. Now, having gotten one and having, you know, another buddy here had already ordered one, and within 2 weeks of the local foil community seeing us foiling, probably 25% has already ordered. I think it's probably been 6 guys, 7 guys who have, you know, probably 5 already have them, 6 already have them. We had 4 guys out the other day at the same spot. So it's going to happen quickly. And I think that we all need to be incredibly respectful of the abundance that it offers us, and realizing that, I mean, just because you're insanely stoked and want to catch your 97th wave of the session doesn't give you the right to, right? Like, that's kind of what it's like. I'm averaging like 100 waves a session. It doesn't give you the right to infringe on anyone else. And what you might think is infringing on someone else might not be what they think is infringing on them. So, I mean, I think we need to keep a good margin away from people. But the beauty is that you no longer need access to this. You don't need a breaking wave, really. You know, like what we were doing at the contest, I wouldn't recommend that in front of a surf lineup, but we were riding waves basically from 100 meters out until where folks could chip and kicking out and never got in their way, right? I wouldn't do that at a surf lineup, but it offers the ability to play in open ocean, which I think is the most beautiful thing about it. And so, I mean, and I think that we should feel comfortable telling other folks who are getting the foil drive, you know, that they need to stay away, because I do think that if we don't self-regulate, it will be regulated very quickly, and there could be injuries that happen, and you just don't want. I also think that it could reflect on foiling in a bad way, and I'm concerned about that, because it's, you know, how many times are you proning and you walk in and someone says, "Is there a motor on that thing?" No one has any idea. And so it's just going to get put in the same category, and you don't want it to negatively affect the whole of foiling. So, you know, but use it as the way that I've kind of used it is a way to just explore our coastline and see what else is on offer when you don't have the same. I mean, it's like having a personal jet ski that gives you that amount of access. And so it just gives you the ability to harness, you know, unbroken energy that you probably haven't really looked at except for maybe on a wing or with a ski. What do you think?
Talking about like people regulating us without us self-regulating. Do you remember that that Instagram video of a dude in San Francisco, and he was like throwing like a rock on
yeah. Smashing the dude's board and stuff?
Yeah. So like we really don't want like other beach users to just turn us into a hated crowd. You know, foiling is the first time I've ever felt like an outcast in the surf. Like, I've my whole life hung out, like, some of my best mates are bodyboarders, and like, I feel so sorry for what they've had to endure their whole, like, you know, a lot of bodyboarders now that I hang out with don't really bodyboard anymore. They kind of surf, but like what they had to deal with just because they were doing something different to what the majority were doing is so lame, dude. Like, so lame. I can't believe just because they're not standing on their feet, but they're still riding the same wave, they're like, oh, fuck off or whatever. And it's just like, with the foiling, I've always kind of felt like that. Like, you know, when you rock up to a spot, maybe it's not your local spot or whatever, and you're like, oh, they're cool with foilers here. And it's like, why do they have the right of way? But like, I think because we are such, not an eyesore, but just something so unique and different. Like, they just see these people literally from far away. It looks like we're levitating above water. They're like, what the hell are they doing? And like, we're not stopping, and we're going way faster than everyone else. So it's, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like maybe there should, not that anyone would read this, but like maybe when you get your foil drive, like there's a nice little like letter in it, just kind of describing, you know, your responsibility now that you've got this powerful tool that like could potentially piss a lot of people off if you're not used the right way. I think that could just be a nice little slip. I don't know. There's a lot of slips in the foil drive bag that when I first got it, I just threw them all in the bin and just tried to put the thing together.
Yeah. I didn't read anything. I listened to what you told me and I just did that. And then I went out. I still haven't even connected the app yet. Should I say that out loud?
That's actually a question that I wanted to ask you, because I know we talked about motor cable length and stuff, but yeah, you're still, whatever the thing came on, you're just running it on that. I think it's medium when it comes on.
It's perfect.
Or maybe it's learner. I don't know. Maybe they set it to learner because they don't want people to just have too much power straight away. Just set the app up, dude. You love tinkering around with stuff. I reckon set that app up, and I'm down on low power mode now because I just don't need that much power, and I kind of like the idea of the control not being as sensitive. Like I kind of so
that makes sense. I cruise around. I kind of ride around at about 68-70%.
Oh yeah,
when I'm just cruising, but it would be nice just to be able to floor and have 68-70%. I don't know if you can set that up, but
yeah,
to not have to.
I'm surprised you haven't tinkered with that. You love tinkering with things. Does that,
it seems like what I have to do in foiling all the time is tinkering, and I like it when someone else is responsible for the how the product works. I don't have to think about any of that, and I can just go out there and enjoy it. There's something beautiful about that.
I got one more question that's like geared towards you. Is does that mean that your foils are going to be designed now for foil drive because that's all you're riding?
No, I think this is a honeymoon phase.
Okay.
Because our weather's just been so bad, and it's just not fun being in the water right now. So I think that will actually change over the next. It starts to get warm. Our water's up since you guys were. Today was cold, but overall we're in the 60s again, which is really nice. No, I think that there's going to be foils that will be designed for foil drive. I think it allows you, it changes the requirements of what you need at certain weights for certain efficiencies. It's like a hybrid of winging and towing in a way from what I've felt so far. And there's going to be a lot of overlap with what you'd want in a prone foil. And so it can mask some deficiencies, which will maybe allow you to optimize a little bit more for surfing. Like there's a foil we're working on right now that I never really would have thought about riding if I wasn't towing, but I actually think it could be almost a daily driver now because, it's just the cardio to pump it around, and we have to pump a lot, but it's so efficient that, once you're at speed on a foil drive, like the 125 is just so easy to ride on the foil drive. I think you can go smaller than that and still, it just opens up the surfing. At some point, there's probably, an inflection point where maybe diminishing returns and it's too hard, but I really haven't felt that yet. So
do you reckon
it's exciting?
Yeah, totally. Do you reckon like a foil drive foil would look like a tow foil because you're not looking for glide anymore? You're just looking for turnability because you've got power on tap? Or do you reckon you still like glide?
I think that glide gives you more efficiency, extends the battery, and maybe takes a little bit of the criticality out of takeoffs in certain moments. And also with the weight, like I've always felt that, as someone who's, between 180 and 190 pounds all the time and in a wetsuit a lot of times, that, I like a foil that's kind of balanced to like your weight, and so it has enough span. Like I don't think that you'd want to necessarily foil drive but I do think that you'll be able to get into some cooler, smaller foils than you would normally ride prone. Yeah. And I think efficiency will be important though, because that lets you I think pitch stability and efficiency. I think that it lets you like relax into the motoring part. You don't want something that's going to drop out of the sky when you're motoring. You want to have like a nice stall warning.
Yeah. I agree. Totally agree.
Yeah.
And then to finish it off, what would you like to see in V3?
Oh, wow.
What would you like to see? What have you found so far that you think could be bettered, or what would you like to see?
Man, do you guys want me to say this stuff out loud?
Please. This is an open.
Yeah.
Foil Drive is a transparent company. We're not mucking around.
So if you could figure out a way to have the battery mount from the back, it'll open up a lot of design elements for boards to where you can hide. Because right now you could do a recess, like KT just came out with that recessed board, where the drive, like the actual battery and everything fits up into the board. The problem is that taking the whole thing apart is not fun. And I don't think that you're getting the battery in and out. I looked at that. Like I designed something a few weeks, like month or so ago, like similar with like that recess. But then I was like, I wouldn't want to like necessarily use this, but I think it's directionally accurate. Like I like that direction, but with where the battery is currently, accessed, it would really limit the usability. But if you could come in from the back, that opens up a whole lot. And now you want to keep the swing weight in the same place. When I was thinking this through, like you do not want that swing weight behind the mast. I think that would surf terribly. And it's actually why I think I prefer surfing the performance over the sport in some ways, is that weight coming a little bit farther forward balances everything out a little bit more.
Okay.
So it's not like it spreads the weight instead of having all that weight in one spot, which ends up adding to pitch. By spreading that weight out, it creates a balanced feel. So I feel like I can actually relax into surfing on the bigger battery, which doesn't really make sense. It's more weight, but the weight's in a better place overall. It's spread out. So anyways, that's one improvement. How many do you want?
Rapid fire me, baby. That's not like before you say your next one, I just like, I don't like, I love what KT's doing, but I just didn't see the point of that. I don't, maybe he hasn't ridden one yet, or maybe he's just making what a customer's asked for. But for me, like the amount of effort that went into that, and then like what you said, like having to take the thing apart every time just to get the battery, and I'm just like, I don't know, I just didn't feel. I'd love to try it. I hate dissing anything before I try it, but I just couldn't see any benefits of that. Like, yeah, it looks aesthetically, it looks neater. And like, hydrodynamics, like the water probably go just around the mast better. But I
do think it makes a lot of sense. I think from a touchdown perspective, like you can feel the motor drag, and you can usually overcome the motor drag through pumping. Like as soon as you put the whole board on the water, it's pretty much game over unless you power back up.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So like, I think that tricks in the foam, like where you're riding out and your board is touching, like when I prone, I use my board a whole lot. And I've had to completely like change the way that I do connection turns. There's a lot that I've had to change because now I have, a warning of the motor, and then you have the like pretty much guaranteed stall of the battery. And I think if you could mitigate that drag, I think it would be a good thing. I think it'd be cool. And also get that weight closer to your feet, which would feel better. Like you would, that connection I think would be better. Like the inflection point on the mast, like that's a big thing in the feel of a foil. Like, how like you ride a prone board and it doesn't really feel like it's got too much flex, and then you go to your sup board and it's 4 inches thicker, and you're all of a sudden like, wow, this is kind of a flexy setup. Like moving that closer will mitigate a lot of that.
Yep, makes sense. Shoot, I think you got more, don't you? Come on.
Yeah, so the other one that I'll say, let me think back on it here real quick. What was it? I'm blanking. Oh, deploying motor. Like, I think that you could use the centripetal force of a motor to actually have it as you power, drop down the mast to a cutoff point, and then when you let go of the power, basically return home. So you could have a track in the mast somehow to where you gain more mass. So then, like right now, we're riding at like 12 to 15 centimeters, but it's always there. It would be awesome is if we could, be powered at 20 centimeters, but then as soon as you let off and it clears the water, it's right underneath it. And I don't think that would be too terribly hard in some ways. I think that because you have the motor there, you could probably figure that out. The trick would be doing it without a lot of weight, which, but I think that would be really cool. Cause then all of a sudden, everything's in the top, probably 8-9 centimeters of your board, and it's almost invisible from a feel perspective.
Yeah, I want a shorter cable, but like the stem of my mast is like it starts coming out quite a bit. So I think the motor pod would change so much just in those next few centimeters. And I don't know. I like, unless I'm just going upwind, that's the only time that I would want it a little bit higher. Like I feel like for my pop-ups and stuff, I'm on my feet like pretty fast before it even like I can get it out of the water. I really don't like the motor pod being down towards the foil. I hate it. Like I like having it so close up to the board, and I think I've started to trained my muscle memory of my legs to keep that board so horizontal to the water, even if it is choppy. Like, it's just so in tune to going up and over bumps now that it's just like, so I'm trying to I want to really get that shorter cable and just see how short I can go before it becomes like, you know, unrideable because it's so in and out of the water type thing.
Yeah. It's crazy how quickly you become sensitive to like that altitude, and also how my surfing has changed, like being very comfortable staying higher on the mast. At the beginning it was hard. Like, I want to come real low on bottom turns and, you know, connection turns. And I feel like, you know, in about a month of riding it pretty much the whole time, except for the one heat in the contest, which was a mistake. It's the only time I've proned in the last month. It's so dumb. But yeah, that you get really sensitive really quickly. And just like the last downwinder, this one was terrible that we did today. I mean, it was fun, but it wasn't like a good day. But a couple nights ago, we had an epic run. I mean, it was like, I dropped an Instagram clip on it. It was just surfing the entire time. And, you know, my first downwinders, I was always like hitting, because I'm so used to like how I come across bumps and wanting to get low. I'm so used to that. But now it's like I touched the motor a few times over the run. It was like minimal. And just, you know, a couple years of foiling downwind, and in, you know, what, 4 or 5 downwind runs, I was able to adjust to where it's kind of not in the way anymore. I don't really notice it. So it's going to be fun to see what happens over the next, I don't know, like, you know, few months of playing with it.
Yeah, no, it's exciting, dude. And I know you're frothing because you don't usually post Instagram clips, and when you're posting them regular like you are now, I'm like, he must be pretty pumped. So I'm stoked, dude. Cool. Yeah, and I'm super stoked you're involved in this, and we're able to share kind of notes with each other and kind of just do what we were doing with Unifoil, which was really cool. Just kind of picking each other's brains about how stuff feels, because this is the stuff that gets me really excited. I love tinkering too. I love seeing how to just keep bettering yourself and your setup and figuring out how to, I hate using the word, but like master the ocean and use your skills to figure out, you know, how to get from point A to point B, or how to maximize your time on foil. And it's just it's a game of chess and science and all this stuff. So it's exciting that, you know, we're on the same journey and doing it together.
Yeah, man, I couldn't agree more. I look at kind of my top pursuit since I was probably 15, 14. My first time I probably ever surfed, it's just been to catch more waves. It's kind of like all I've been after, you know, moving to the beach from living inland, moving to Costa Rica from living on the East Coast. And then this is just like the next level of that. Like, waves per hour are the most I've ever experienced, which is pretty insane. I mean, you give up a little bit, but you don't give up a lot. And it's well worth the trade in my mind, you know, on most days.
Definitely, my man. Well, send my love to the family, and thank you very much for your time. It's been an amazing hour of power.
Yeah, brother.
And we'll chat soon.
Hey, and good job, dude. You're good at this.
I just need to get like a good little intro and outro song now. So I
can make that for you.
I'm coming for you.